We're going to talk today about graphing with amplitudes and midlines. Okay, so this we're going to deal with more sophisticated versions of the sine curve. Uh, Now, I copied this stuff out of the book. The midline is the center value of the sine curve. So the sine curve or cosine curve, it goes up and down around that value. Now, this is related to how the circle works. So remember that everything is like we're doing the very simple version of everything spinning around a circle. And to do that, okay, here I am. I'm going to switch over back to the trigonometry lesson. That leads us to this page of the trigonometry lesson. So we have a circle. I'll make the circle bigger. So the midline, first of all, is where the circle is. Now, this in the sine, the midline controls how the circle relates to y. So there, the circle is going up and down around 3. If it's a cosine, so this is saying midline altitude. Now, most all the textbooks I used before this current one called the midline the altitude. So my stuff still calls it the altitude. At some point, I might change it. Now, the cosine, I made the cosine is where the circle is in x. And as you see now, I told it to go to -4. So the circle is going up and down around -4, the midline. So the midline controls the middle line of the circle. Now, the amplitude controls how big the circle is. So if I make the circle size 5, now we're still going a cosine curve up and down around -4, but now it's going up 5 to 1 and down 5 to -9. So it's going up and down around this curve. Now, it's still the same shape. It's still a cosine shape. It's just instead of going up and down 1, we're going up and down 5. So here is a function -4 plus 5 cosine x. And so one of the problems we're going to do is say graphing that. So I'm going to go to my trigonometry graph paper and get a fresh piece of graph paper like this. And you see now we're going from -10 to 10 in the y-axis, which is where we're going to go most of the time. And I'm just going to copy a piece of graph paper into our notes because I'm going to draw on it. Now, when we graph for this class, so as you say, the verticals, as you see, it's describing the amplitude and the midline. Now here, I have a piece of graph paper, but make it a little bigger, maybe. Okay, I made it smaller so everything would fit, but now I'm going to make it a little bigger. Okay, and our formula from the trigonometry lesson. So our problem is, by the way, you're going to need graph paper for the rest of this class. Graph this curve. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to be using, what am I doing? Okay, yesterday's table. So I'm going to go back to yesterday's notes. And remember I built up this table of how sine and cosine works. I'm going to grab this table again and copy it into the notes for today so that we have it available. So I'm going to go up here and put the table right over here. Okay. So the main thing I want to talk about, okay. So first I like to draw some guidelines. What do they look like? The guidelines, when we have, okay, so this guy, what we're adding is the midline. And that's the first guideline. It's the midline here is -4. So I'm grabbing triangle line through -4, draw a horizontal line right through -4 like this. Okay, and that's a midline. And now I'm adding 5. So this 5 is the altitude. Okay, so that we're going to go up 5, and I count from -4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to +1. And I go, and this is going to be the top line. So this is the midline. This is the top, is at 1. And the bottom line, I go -5, -6, -7, -8, -9, 5 down. And I get the, oops, I can draw better than that. Well, maybe I can't. I'm doing my best here. Close enough. This is the bottom line. So we have the top, bottom, and mid, and they're equally spaced. And the distance between these lines is always the amplitude. Why am I? One amplitude between both of those. So they're always equally spaced. Now, this is a cosine curve. So we have the cosine curve. Let me just shrink that a little bit. And 1 is going to represent the top. So 1 is the top. -1 is the bottom. And 0 is the mid. So what is the 0.7? Well, the 0.7 we multiply. Come on, give me a. Let's put something. Give me a thing. Okay. It's going to fight with me. Okay, so I want to go there. Okay. Okay. So the 0.7 we multiply by the amplitude, which is 5, and that's going to tell us 3.5. So 0.7 is going to turn into 3.5 from the midline. So what are we going to do? Okay, we're going to start. So to graph this cosine curve, I'm going to make big dots. I'm going to start at -2 pi on the top. Then I have 0.7, which means 3.5 up, 1, 2, 3 and a half up from the midline. Then 0 is the cosine curve right over here. So we're at 0 now. And I'm going to go right to the midline and put a dot there. And this is at minus 3 pi over 2. Then at minus 5 pi over 4, I get a negative 0.7 right here. So that means I'm going down 3.5 because it's 5 times 0.7 because the amplitude is 5 from the midline. Oops, that's not where I want to go. It's right here. Then at minus 1, so I'm following this curve to minus 1 and go to that minus 1 is the bottom. Then I go back to minus 0.7. Here's minus 0.7 and back to 0 and back to 0.7 at negative pi over 4, which is right here, and back up here to the top. And I end always where I start. And then I do the same thing. I go 0.7 midline minus 0.7 bottom, 0.7 minus 0.7, I mean, come on, be good. Minus 0.7, oops, wrong space. Then back to the midline, then plus 0.7, then back to the top. And now I know how to draw my sine curve. And I'll use a thinner line to connect the dots basically. Now, to check my work, I use my graphing calculator.